Hello, this is Dr. Jimmy, and it's been a rather long time since I made a video on the history of Halloween Horror Nights, Horror Nights history videos. Hello, Bob. Bob is here. Yes. The last time I actually made one was over a year ago in September of 2013. It was posted earlier this year, however, February of 2014. I got around to posting the video, which was the first video on the history of Halloween Horror Nights 19, ripped from the silver screen. The 19th Halloween Horror Nights event at Universal Orlando Resort, held, of course, back in the year 2009. 5 years ago. Yes. And in that first video I talked a bit about some of the stuff we learned about the event in advance because of leaky things that happened, especially the mysterious document which I think I actually showed you. But I didn't get much further than that. So now it's time to proceed with the second video of Horror Nights history for Halloween Horror Nights 19, ripped from the silver screen. So 5 years ago in the summer of 2009, there had been some leaks, but then we began to receive some official information about the event through the internet, as usual. With there was a what we call sometimes we have called it placeholder website, replaced by an update where it showed just a screen showing a movie theatre, a cinema, with marquees posters for apparently a multiplex, multi-screen cinema, as the movies that were to be presented there included the film Saw, from the now long-running Saw franchise from Lionsgate. Ran for about 7 or 8 films, I believe, ultimately. Then back then it had only been for a couple of years, maybe 3 or 4 films. I don't remember how many films it had by 2009, but it started a few years before that. Saw, Saw 1, Saw 2, 3, 4, whatever it was. The Wolfman, which is a remake, of course, of Universal's classic Wolfman film, which was originally to have been released right around October of 2009, but then got shoved up into January of 2010. So it wasn't actually released until months after the event had ended. But that was a poster for that film, and also a poster for Chucky. Not any specific film in this Child's Play franchise, but just the character of Chucky himself. So these were the marquees, the posters that were shown for the cinema, a rather mysterious cinema that looked rather ominous. And we didn't know, because we couldn't click on anything yet. But as time went on, we got a much better update, and we were able to sort of enter this dark cinema in a way, and we found that it looked like it wasn't in very good shape. There were lots of blueprints, sort of. The screen sort of showed, and every now and then a little thing would appear that would help to piece together the apparently great history of this movie house. This apparently some sort of grand movie palace, as they used to call them back in the 20s and 30s of the previous century, where the silver age, or golden age of Hollywood, the age of the silver screen, I should say, the golden age of Hollywood motion pictures. Movies were much larger than life, although the screen was smaller and squarer and sometimes silent in the early days. The movies still were more miraculous, perhaps because they were so new. And great legends of the screen, Garbo, Dietrich, Boris Karloff, or Lon Chaney, if you're a horror aficionado, of course, but other great stars, the Barrymores, Clark Gable, Carole Lombard, all of that sort of thing that's going on in the old days. I'm not so old that I can remember all of that firsthand. So, just get that out of the way. Not that old. Unless, of course, I'm much older than I look. Even I don't look that old, I hope. Anyway, so we had this presented, and every so often some little thing would pop up, some little advertisement for meat products that were used in concession stands, or perhaps a little marquee with some posters on it, or some paperwork that would tell us something about connected to the history of this cinema. And over the decades, the cinema had been opened and closed and reopened on more than one occasion, and had a rather storied history, which bit by bit, piece by piece, we could start to put together very slowly and start to figure out there were some connections to what must be the houses for the event, whatever they might be. But what were they? I don't know. Did I mention the code words in the previous video? I mean, I made it so long ago I don't remember. We had gotten from the permits code words that gave us all the answers in 2008. In 2009 they made them into code words. Interesting code words like Agana, which was a big red herring, or Geppetto, or what was the other one? Pleasantville. Yes, Pleasantville. And so at the time we thought it was Pleasantville or something silly like that, or Pleasantville, and the other was Hammer, and a bunch of other code words. I think Big Guy and Harry, I think, was one, but leading to all sorts of speculations. Of course, if you had that little document, you could start putting them together, playing match-up games. It's not really speculating if you have a cheat sheet, is it? No. But eventually, though, as we started to get actual bits and pieces of information, we started to learn about the magnificent history of the Universal Palace Theatre, as the movie Palace was known, and the history of this cinema, which included such very odd occurrences. A lady who had dressed as a bride and was found dead, apparently exsanguinated for some reason. Another gentleman who got electrocuted under mysterious circumstances. A person who was found torn to bits as if by some sort of savage beast. A guy who managed to get himself caught in some sort of hideous death trap. How did that happen? Was he playing a game? Some strange toys that were left behind in the theatre. There was this ominous undercurrents. Some young lads on their senior prom who disappeared, apparently after taking a trip into neighbouring sewers. Why would they go down there? Did something lure them down there, or did something take them down there? What was the other one? I'm trying to remember now. Oh yes, some very strange behavioural changes and appetite, perhaps eating disorders, that occurred after certain person found some very disturbing ingredients in their hot dog they purchased from the concession stand. And yes, hot dogs normally don't have fingernails. Oh my. They became very, very hungry for unusual meat products after having consumed that ominous piece of flesh. That sort of thing was going on in this cinema over the decades, and perhaps at the centre of the mystery, a strange person who has apparently been working at the cinema for a long, long time, although perhaps he hadn't actually been working there. He worked there in the early years of the cinema, but then was found having hung himself behind the screen during a presentation of the classic 1925 silent picture, The Phantom of the Opera, apparently this fellow's favourite film. A theatre usher who had been working in the cinema named Julian Browning. And apparently, although he perished through this suicide, hanged man, he continued to return as if somehow his unquiet spirit continued to work at his previous occupation. For decades afterwards he was sighted, and usually those sightings corresponded with very strange episodes like the ones we've already mentioned, often coinciding, often immediately following some incident where somebody was disruptive in the cinema, doing something that violated those rules that they project on the screens. Please place your trash into the proper receptacle. There'll be no loud talking or noises. Take your little babies out of the theatre if they're going to cry and wail and scream from the dirty nappies. That sort of thing. Do not put your feet on the seat ahead of you, but keep them on the floor. Don't litter. And for modern days, of course, no texting or turn your cell phone to silent, that sort of thing. It would have included it if it had been a modern day cinema, but this was back in the olden days when they didn't have the little smartphone devices that we carry about with us like we do today, like the Forever People with their mother box back in the old 70s comic books, for those of you who like Jack Kirby. Isn't it awesome that the iPhone or your Android, all those little smartphones are like a mother box, really, in real life now? It's like, damn. But again, I'm showing my age and my nerdiness. Let's get over that. Oh, as I was saying, people who seem to violate what are the normal rules of proper cinema viewing etiquette often found themselves in the midst of these strange incidents in the cinema over the years. It got closed on more than one occasion, but now is being refurbished and reopened, and thus there were people studying the mysterious history of this cinema. Oh, and lest I forget, this marvelous movie palace and those strange, creepy sewers alluded to earlier, as well as the butcher shop that provided the tasty meat products that were sometimes served as sausages in the concession stand in the cinema. All of these establishments, of course, were located in no other place than the quaint little village of Cary, Ohio, which we have seen before and undoubtedly shall return to on more than one occasion in the future. So, we learned all this sort of background information as the weeks went on leading up to the event, and we started to piece together that somehow all these weird incidents in the cinema must be related to the individual houses of Halloween Horror Nights 19. And that, of course, was revealed when they had the grand full reveal of the website, of course, which was quite spectacular, because now you had an opening video with the usher himself, who was the icon for the event. Julian Browning, the usher, a theatre usher who had killed himself for some reason, perhaps to become one with his beloved lady, as he called it, speaking in a voice something like this. Welcome to the Universal Palace Theatre. Tickets, please? Yes, that sort of guy. Julian Browning would usher you into the cinema, which was realized magnificently on this website, because what they did was they built the entire Universal Palace Theatre as a miniature model, an enormous miniature model with little people about this big inhabiting it all over with multiple levels. It was quite spectacular. It still exists somewhere, I'm sure, and it's been on display once or twice since then for us to actually look at it and say, damn, what a piece of art this is. The actual Universal Palace as a huge model, and in the video the camera could go through, and because it's interactive you could go in different parts, so you're in this little miniature model of the cinema itself, which will take you different places that you could interact with and learn about all the different houses and scare zones, which will be the subject of part 3.